And then that's Mr. Robert Johnson. Over
Yeah.
there. That's Miss Tracy Fur.
Yes.
Tracy Fur.
Mic check, mic check.
Yeah.
My name is Kelvin Walker. I live in Nashville, Tennessee.
Good.
All right, thank you.
Miss Joyce?
Joyce T. Johnson. Joyce T. Johnson. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Because what we could do, we could have you and Miss Fur. I don't.
Yeah, because she's the founder and CEO, so she would definitely.
Yeah, well, you know, that'll be fine.
Yeah,
I mean,
I was just trying to figure out a way to have both of them on there together, if possible. I don't know if
well, we're gonna have it. They'll be on the tape together.
Yeah.
But they won't be on the segments together. See, which is say that when we do that first segment,
that's fine.
As you know, we'll do that, and then that'll be 6 minutes, Ms. Johnson, and then we'll have that 2-minute break, and we'll come back for 8 minutes, and and then after that, then we'll bring those two over, and have your husband in his seat, and Ms. Fur in your seat, and we'll have 10 minutes, 10 straight minutes with them. We're going to break your time into 6 minutes, 8 minutes time, and keep you in place, and then after that, we'll take you out of place and bring those two and put them in place, and then we'll do that with the 10-minute segment. Domestic violence in adolescence. You ever think in terms of, well, I guess that's what it is now, because this is where it starts. It probably starts there, doesn't it?
In my experience, yeah.
Boy getting mad at his girlfriend, and she been traumatized and intimidated and whatever, and except they're not married, but
I've been that guy.
Well, it really starts with the family.
Okay,
because research bears out the fact that a lot of the people that are involved in that, they learn it from where they come
That's
from.
right.
And so if it's not put in check early, it carries over. And these children that we're talking about, they don't really know what a healthy relationship looks like. And so that wherein lies the biggest problem. So
Ms. Johnson, you're going to explain to us how you became involved in this. Became a CEO of a domestic violence program.
Well, let me. Are we on the air?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Okay.
But that's the way I want you to do it.
You know what you're doing.
Just talking just like that. you and welcome to the show this morning. The topic this morning is domestic violence in adolescence. And we're fortunate to have with us to talk about some of the issues involved in domestic violence in adolescence, Pastor Kay Walker and Miss Joyce Johnson. And Pastor Walker, let me welcome you and Miss Joyce Johnson to the show this morning, and to have the two of you give us some information about your background, your education, and some of the things that are important in your life. And we'll do that for both of you during this first segment. And during that second segment, we'll come back and we'll have Ms. Johnson to talk about the program that she has. And I think she will indicate that she's the CEO of a program. We'll give you an opportunity to talk about that. But let's start off, Pastor Walker, by talking about, giving you an opportunity to talk about your background, your education, and some of your experiences.
All right. Well, Dr. Henry, I'm Pastor Kelvin L. Walker. Been on the show a number of times. Born and raised right here in Nashville, Tennessee. Educated, I said, somewhat in the public school system up until a point where I got kicked out of the school system. Went into the United States Navy at a time when, you know, you could go in without a GED. So I went in the United States Navy as a way to pretty much save myself from falling into the criminal justice system at that particular point. Went through the Navy, got out of the Navy, didn't stay very long, 19 months to be exact, but during that period of time, I had some experiences in there. Got out of the Navy, went to OIC, Opportunities Industrialization Center, got a GED, spent 6 months in that process. And from there, I went on to TSU for a short period of time, but all during that period of time, I was actually strung out on drugs, and my drug addiction led me all down the road of out of school, of course, and eventually incarcerated in the Tennessee State Prison system for a period of 5 years of my life. And of course, in 1986, God decided that he was ready for me to be a minister. So on August 24th, 1986, God called me from active drug addiction directly into the ministry. And there I've been since that particular period of time. I pastor the Hands of God Christian Church located out here in North Nashville on 11th Avenue North. And I'm just excited and glad to be on your show today, because I'm sure that we have some interesting things to talk about today with Mrs. Joyce Johnson here, the CEO of You Can Change.
Very good. And Ms. Johnson, let's talk about some of your experiences, background, education, that kind of information, and then it'll give us the second opportunity or the second segment to talk about your program. But talk about yourself.
Well, my name is Joyce T. Johnson. I was born and raised here in Nashville, Tennessee. This is where my family is. I graduated from Cameron High School in 1966. I am a mother of 3 children, grandparent. I'm a grandparent and a great-grandparent. Graduated from Tennessee State University in 1986, where I majored in criminal justice. So this thing that I'm involved in now is just part of a passion that I have to help others. In the early 2000s, I began working for the state of Tennessee as a probation and parole officer. And during that time, of course, I had many encounters with a very diverse group of individuals. And I knew from doing that particular job that there were people that needed the skills that I had to offer based on my education, based on my background, and the whole 9 yards. And so this is what brought me to start my program.
And so Pastor Walker, you believe that the topic that we're going to deal with today, and we will have her husband, I think, coming on during the final segment, but you believe that they have the information that we need dealing with domestic violence and adolescence and et cetera.
Oh yeah, absolutely, Dr. Haney, just from conversations. And I believe that she definitely have the information that you know, the public needs to be made aware of, because when you talk about domestic violence, you know, I was a perpetrator as an adolescent, you know, in domestic violence, you know, the young teenager that beat up the girlfriend and stuff like that. You know, it's nothing I'm proud of and stuff like that, but it's something, a hurdle I had to jump over and overcome in my life, and you know, as an adult. And then also I'm a victim, because my daughter was murdered in a domestic violence situation in March of 2015, a day before my birthday. So going through that situation right now. We await the trial of her live-in boyfriend who actually murdered her. So it's a very important issue, and I think it needs to be highlighted, because I think a lot of people just not really aware of what's going on out there, and you know, some of the signs of these things that's going on, and how we need to actually get involved, and especially, and I know Mr. Johnson touched on it, the churches need to be involved.
Okay, so what we'll do, Ms. Johnson, is to take our first commercial break, and when we come back after this break, we'll start with you, and this will give you an opportunity of about 4 or 5 minutes to really talk about not only your program, but some of the issues dealing with domestic violence, and then Pastor Walker will be able to bring us out of that second segment. And we'll be back with our audience following this very, very short commercial break. Ms. Johnson, when we come back, this will give you an opportunity to talk about your organization, not only domestic violence and adolescents, but put it within the larger framework. And so we've got 8 minutes, really, in this segment. And so why don't you take as much time as you...
Oh, okay.
Take as much time dealing with that, about 4 minutes. We've got 8 minutes, and take about 4 minutes of that, and then Pastor Walker will take a couple of minutes, and then we'll come back with you for the last 2 minutes to sort of wind things down. But those first 4 minutes, when we come back, we want you to talk about your organization outside of just domestic violence, but at the same time recognize that we're talking about, we would like to get as much information about domestic violence and adolescents as we possibly can. And so I think that you'll have about 4 minutes to talk about that, and then he'll give us about 2 minutes of information, and then we'll end with you. Okay.
I'm gonna keep my eye on you.
Yeah, just keep your eye on. That's what I tell you. I see you watch me. I'm the only one that can mess this up. I know.
And you start doing that
yeah, it's time. I'm the only one that can mess this up. But this is good information. Yeah, this is excellent information, Pastor. Pastor, I'm so sorry about your situation.
Yeah, that's heavy.
You got a court date.
It's heavy. It really is heavy.
That's
heavy.
heavy.
Court date coming up next month.
And so you'll be the first person we'll talk. Thank you, and welcome back to the second segment of the show for today. We're talking to Pastor Kay Walker and Ms. Joyce Johnson in reference to domestic violence and adolescents. Ms. Johnson, I think during the first segment we had an opportunity to talk to you about some ideas dealing with domestic violence, but we also know that you're the CEO of a program dealing that has domestic violence as a component of what you're doing. Let's give you about 3 or 4 minutes to talk about that program, and then Pastor Walker will give his reflections on some of the things that you talked about, and then we'll come back to you.
Dr. Haney, I'm just proud to say that I am the CEO and founder of YCC You Can Change. This program was started in 2004, and we began doing lots of work over in the public housing area, Napier, J.C. Napier, and University Court. Because of my background and all the diverse groups of people that I worked with, I knew that they needed tools to change. And so YCC is that particular program. I just retired from the state as a probation and parole officer in 2014, September 2014. The last 10 years that I was there, I worked as a trainer. I was a training coordinator. So I have a background in training, and I also have the background with all these diverse populations. Back in 2014, we decided to do a little research on domestic violence and how the church was dealing with it. That was our springboard. We found out through research that the church was failing, and we wanted to see what we could do to help that, because we realized that there were victims sitting on the pews every week. And so we're not saying they don't care about it, we're just saying they need to know more about it. And so the focus of our initiative, when churches help stop domestic violence, the time to heal, that's the name of our initiative, is to enhance the church's knowledge about domestic violence, how they can deal with it, also to provide them with resources that they can send their congregational members to. So when it comes down to the part where it deals with adolescents, right now there is an epidemic in motion where teens are becoming more and more involved in this type of abusive behavior. And so we decided we would look at that a little closer. This is not just 15 and 16, this starts with the tweens, which is 11 and 12-year-olds. And so we're gonna be working more with that. We're gonna be doing some activities and events where we're trying to get the teens to come in and learn the danger signs, what domestic violence looks like, what can you do to protect yourself, because they just don't know.
When you talk about teens and preteens, what are some of the things that you look for in dealing with those young children dealing with violence, domestic violence?
Well, first of all, Dr. Haney, it's important for me to say that these young people don't really know what a healthy relationship looks like. And that's because they're coming out of homes where they're not seeing healthy. But to say to them, when someone is trying to control you, telling you what to wear, telling you who you can talk to, looking at your cell phone to see what kind of messages you're getting, social media situations, those kind of things, outbursts, verbal and physical. But for them to see the verbal part of that, somebody calling you out of your name for